Have you ever heard people say that if you really want to get what you want, you just need to push harder? You just need to fight a little bit more. You just need to not give up. Maybe you're on a sports team and heard that you gotta push harder, you gotta push all your energy, and then you can beat the team. You see, we hear this message all the time, and it's a good message in certain context, but it's not truth in all context. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about something that I read about in 1 Samuel 28 in regards to Saul. And I'm not going to read the whole Bible to you. I'm just going to bring out a verse and this one thing that says that when Saul tried to speak to God, he didn't hear back from God, and what he did in that situation. You see, if you look a little bit about the context, the Philistines are approaching Saul, and Saul freaked out. He wanted to know, how is he supposed to respond? Should he go to battle? Should he not go to the battle? And in the past, he had always been able to go to God, and God responded right away. But this time, God did not respond. And in that situation, Saul, instead of turning to God and trusting and waiting patiently or following him in any act of obedience, because God had already told him to confess his sin, he instead turned to sin, and he consulted with a medium or a fortune teller to find out how he should proceed. Now, this is kind of terrible, right? Because if you read about the history of this, Saul had originally responded with obedience years ago. He had outlawed all mediums and fortune tellers in the land, and he had said, these have no part with God. These have no part with the people of Israel. So he snuck out of his clothes and went out to go consult outside of his town to consult with a medium, and disobeyed God by doing that instead of waiting patiently for him and confessing his sins. And when I'm reading this, I was thinking, like, how do you get to a place where you don't confess your sins, where you want to fight so hard that you don't do this? But then as soon as I started thinking about that and I started judging Saul and his actions, I realized, how often do I do this in my own life? How often do I want something really bad, and maybe God hasn't responded yet, or God has said no to me, and I just walk around in bitterness, or I walk around trying to make it happen on my own way? How many times do you see other people in the Bible do the exact same thing? You look at Abraham and Sarah, and God promised that they would have a son, and instead of them trusting, Sarah said, hey, take my servant Hagar. How often do we do that? How often do we just try to take matters into our own hands by doing things that we clearly know are against God's will? So I found that this chapter is kind of interesting because it gives 3 approaches to what we can do in situations like this, where we want something so desperately. So the first response is really Saul's response, and this is what our current world tells us to do. It says, take things into your own hand, do what you got to do, no matter what. No matter if you hurt someone, no matter if you sin, no matter if you have to lie, steal, cheat, get it done. Get what you want and have what you want. Now, there's another guy in this chapter that it briefly references, Achish, and Achish is the king of the Philistines. And he has an interesting response. It's so amusing because you read in this, and he is talking to David, and he just decides to go along with David, and he just blindly trusts David, even though David is not going to help him in the end. So there are first people like Saul who try to take matters into their own hand. There are people like Achish who say, you know what? I'm going to trust in people. I'm just going to trust that somebody else can save me. The Israelites did this constantly when they relied on Egypt. They trusted in Egypt instead of trusting in God. And then finally, there's David. And there's David in this chapter who is the complete contrast to Saul and Achish. And he trusts in God. He believed the promise that he was God's new anointed king. He patiently waited. And that is so encouraging, isn't it? And today, what this reminds me of and what I really want to do is I want to try to let God lead me today. When I get angry at certain things, if I get upset about certain things, I want to trust that God's got this. God's in control. Let's say I don't want to wash the dishes today, or if I don't want to do the things that I have to do. Instead of getting angry and bitter about it, I'm going to choose to turn in obedience to God and say, you know what, God, this is the work that you've given me today, and I'm going to be joyful, and I'm going to take on this work, and I'm going to trust you that the work you've given to me today is enough. That the people that you've given me are wonderful blessings. I'm going to believe that they're blessings. I'm going to believe that my husband has been chosen for me. I'm going to believe my kids have been chosen for me. And I am going to work hard at serving you today, God. I hope more than anything that this video is encouraging to you. I am trying out a new format. So if this is encouraging to you, I would love for you to like it or subscribe it so I know to keep on making videos like that to encourage you to consider always put your faith before your feelings. See you in the next video.